All right, family, welcome to another episode of Kingdom Instruction, where we walk in the spirit and truth and the currency of love, peace, and joy. I am your brother, ambassador, and son of the Most High Yahuah. And today's lesson is deny yourself, willing to sacrifice. So, what are you guys willing to do to inherit the kingdom? The phrase deny yourself and follow me is a quote from Yahusha found in the Gospels, Matthew 16:24, Mark chapter 8, verse 34, and Luke chapter 9, verse 23. And it means to set aside your own selfish desires and priorities to follow him. It's a call to a life of self-sacrifice, fully surrendering your own will to Yahuwah's will, even if it means facing hardship or rejection. Self-denial. This isn't about giving up possessions, and sometimes it may be, depending on how attached you are to certain things, but about giving up your own ego and personal ambitions to put Yahuwah first. It means being willing to say no to your own desires and making others focused decisions, okay? Taking up your cross. Now, this symbolizes a willingness to endure challenges, suffering, and persecution for the sake of one's faith, much like Hamashiach did. It is not about carrying daily burdens, but about a total commitment to identifying with Hamashiach, rejecting and suffering. Following me. This is the active part of the command, which involves consistently living according to Yahusha's example and teachings. It's about making daily choices that are motivated by faith in him. Now, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. That is Luke chapter 9, verses 23 through 24. Okay. The phrase, you will be persecuted for my name's sake. And I had to add this in so you guys can understand that when you're following the Messiah, there are consequences, okay, to it. So please understand. Once again, the phrase, you will be persecuted for my name's sake, summarizes several New Testament sayings where the Messiah warns his disciples that suffering and opposition will come because they belong to him. These statements frame persecution not as a sign of abandonment, but as a mark of faithfulness and an occasion for a testimony. Okay. So the key gospel passages. Several passages use very similar wording to for my name's sake or because my name. Now, in the context of end time, tribulation, and mission. Matthew chapter 24:9. The disciples are told they will be handed over to tribulation, killed, and hated by all nations because of his name. Luke chapter 21, verses 12 through 17. Believers will be arrested, brought before synagogues, prisons, kings, governors for my name's sake, betrayed even by family, and hated by all for his name. And think about what I just said. Even betrayed by your own family, the Messiah says that will happen, okay? Now, in both contexts, the hatred is explicitly tied to allegiance to his name, not to general suffering. John emphasizes that persecution is a continuation of the world's hatred for the Messiah himself. So if the world hates the Messiah, they will hate you. Now, John 15:18 through 21, if the world hated me, it will hate his disciples. If they persecuted him, they will persecute his followers. And this is done on account of my name, because the persecutors do not know the one who sent him. Now, John 16, chapter verse 2 states, a time comes when those who kill his followers will think they are offering service to Yahuwah, again showing religiously framed persecution against his disciples. Here, my name is closely linked with revelation of the Father. Rejection of one is rejection of the other. So if they reject the Messiah, they reject the Father. If they reject you and the Messiah sent you, then they reject the Father and him. Okay. The world will hate you is a central theme in John, describing the inevitable hostility of the unbelieving world toward those united to the Messiah, because their allegiance and way of life are no longer of the world. So we do not conduct ourselves as if we are like everybody else. Being holy means to be set apart. That's what it means. Well, we separate ourselves. Now, we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So we don't uh, participate in the things of the world, like holidays and things of that nature, okay? Now, primary verse in John 15. The clearest expression is in John 15:18 through 19, where the disciples are told that if the world hates them, it is because it first hated him and because he has chosen them out of the world. The world here is the organized human order in rebellion against Yahuwah, which loves its own but reacts with hatred to those who bear his character and message. So if you pretty much mimic the Messiah in all ways, then the world will hate you, okay? Understand that. Reason for the world's hatred. The hatred is grounded in the world's prior hatred of the Messiah and of the Father, whom he reveals. This hostility arises because his presence exposes the world's works as evil. Those who follow him similarly expose and contradict the world's values and loyalties. Okay? Implication for disciples. The passage links hatred with persecution. Just as they persecuted him, they will persecute his followers. And this will happen because of my name. Since the persecutors do not know the one who sent him, which is the Father, far from being accidental, being hated by the world is portrayed as a confirmation of having been chosen out of it and aligned with him rather than with the systems of this world that we live in, okay? So please understand that. Mark chapter 8:34 is a verse from the New Testament where Yahusha tells his followers that to follow him, they must deny themselves. Take up their cross and follow me. This means they must surrender their own will, accept hardships, be willing to follow Yahusha's path, even if it leads to suffering. This verse is a call to a radical commitment that goes against the world's emphasis on self-preservation and personal gain, which this world happens to promote. Okay? Deny themselves. This means surrendering interest and putting Yahusha's will above one's own. It is not about self-denial for a specific goal, but a complete surrender of one's life to Yahusha. Take up their cross. In the context of first century Rome, this was a symbol of crucifixion and death, signifying a readiness to endure suffering and even death for faith in Yahusha. It is not a metaphor for life's general difficulties, but a commitment to accept whatever may come. Follow me. This involves a commitment to follow Yahusha's teachings, life, and sacrifice. It is a path that may not lead to earthly rewards, but rather promises eternal life. Luke chapter 9, verse 23 is a verse from the New Testament where Yahusha tells his followers that to come after him, they must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me. This means surrendering one's own desires and will to Yahuwah's will, and consistently choosing to live a life of self-sacrifice and obedience to Yahusha. Deny himself. This involves rejecting selfishness of the human inclination of prioritizing one's own desires and ambitions. Take up his cross daily. This cross was an instrument of death, like I said in the last one. So Yahusha uses this imagery to represent a daily willing sacrifice of self. It means daily putting to death one's sinful nature and committing to follow Yahusha even when it is difficult. Okay, please understand that. Now, I know you go to these churches and they tell you if you follow the Messiah and you just believe on him, then that's all, and then you'll be blessed and you'll get all this. That is not what the Messiah was teaching at all. Now, he says, follow me. This is the ultimate command to live in obedience to Yahushua's teaching and his path for life, okay? And whoever does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple, okay? That is Luke 14:27. Now, Luke 14:27 states, and whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Okay. This verse emphasizes that becoming a disciple of Yahushua requires a profound and complete commitment, which involves counting the cost, prioritizing following him above all else. This phrase, bearing one's own cross, was a stark and shocking concept to first century listeners, representing a life of hardship, sacrifice, suffering, undertaken in response to Yahushua's teachings. Now, this is, like I said, totally different from what the churches may be teaching you. When you go to these churches nowadays, now you see these flags are messing with me. When you go to these churches nowadays, the churches teach you if you follow the Messiah, oh, your life will be easy. You'll get blessed. You'll get this blessing. You're going to get a house. You're going to get a car, get all of that. No, he says deny all of those worldly, fleshly, material things. That's what you have to learn how to do if you're going to take up your cross and follow him. You must deny yourself and those things that you were looking for. Now, this also requires complete commitment, okay? This also requires complete commitment. This verse is a stern warning that following Yahushua is not a casual decision. It demands total commitment. Now, symbol of sacrifice, bearing one's cross was a shocking statement that symbolized a willingness to face suffering, persecution, and humiliation for one's faith. Not just for a few. This was a call to everyone who was part of that large crowd following Yahusha, not just a select few, to understand the serious commitment involved. So this was meant for everybody that claims that they're followers and believers of the Messiah. This was a call to everyone. Now, everybody's not going to do what he asked, and they're not going to deny themselves and take up the cross. So that's why certain ones, many are called, few are chosen. But anyway, counting the cost. The verse is often paired with the parable of the builder in Luke chapter 14, verse 28 through 29, which highlights the need to count the cost before starting something important to ensure you can finish it. This applies to discipleship, meaning one must be prepared for the potential difficulties before committing to follow Yahusha. Daily practice. Modern interpretation often sees carrying one's cross as representing the daily challenges and responsibilities one embraces for the sake of Yahusha, such as choosing patience over anger and sacrifice over selfishness, okay? Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, so now, not only as in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Okay. So this is Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. Now, it is a New Testament verse where the Apostle Paul urges believers to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So this is the whole thing. We want everybody to be saved. We want everybody to do the will of the Messiah. We want everybody to come to be able to get into the kingdom. But everybody's not going to be willing to do that, okay? Everybody's not going to have that spirit in them, that willingness to deny themselves, obey and keep the commandments, and do what the Messiah said do. That's just what reality is, and I need you guys to be real with yourselves. Do not deceive yourselves. Please don't do that, okay? Now, this whole verse is meaning to actively live out the transformation of Yahuwah has begun in them, not to earn salvation, but to demonstrate it through obedient, joyful living, empowered by Yahuwah working within them, as explained in the context of verse 13. It's a call to consistent believers' growth and spiritual effort, motivated by reverence for Yahuwah, not anxiety about losing salvation, okay? Matthew 10:37 is a New Testament verse where Yahushua states that anyone who loves their father, mother, son, or daughter more than him is not worthy of him, emphasizing that loyalty to Yahuwah must surpass even the strongest family familiar bonds, setting a radical call to prioritize Yahusha above all human relationships, even to the point of taking up one's cross. Now, key message: supremacy in Yahuwah's love. Yahusha demands ultimate loyalty, placing his relationship with followers above all earthly ties, including family. Context of discipleship. This teaching comes as Yahusha sends out his disciples, preparing them for potential conflict and persecution, even from their own household. Okay, so please understand this, guys. Once you become a new creature, a new person in the Messiah, your old flesh dies. People will not recognize you when you start talking to them about this lifestyle change and this new mindset that you have been given, because you are on the same wave pattern as the Messiah. Now, adultery warning. It serves as a warning against idolizing loved ones, which can hinder true devotion to Yahuwah, okay? Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This is the Messiah talking to you guys, okay? In summary, the verse highlights that serving Yahusha requires a radical commitment where he comes first, even before family, because he is the ultimate source of true life and connection, making all other relationships secondary to the divine one. Okay, please understand that, guys. Now, this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah, and does corruption inherit incorruption? That is 1 Corinthians 15:50. And I'll put this in here because I need to express how the Messiah felt about family and about you being related to people and focusing on the worldly things. Our flesh, our blood will not inherit the kingdom. We are all spiritual beings. At the beginning, at the end of it all, at the beginning of it all, and at the end of it all, we're all spiritual beings. Okay, so we are spiritually aligned to the Father. Now, once again, there's only two groups of people on this earth. It's the sheep and the goat. It's the tares and the wheat. If you're either a child of the Most High or you're a child of the devil. Very simple. Now, the biblical phrase "flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah" from 1 Corinthians 15:50 means that our current perishable human bodies are not equipped to enter the kingdom of Yahuwah. Instead, believers will undergo a future transformation or resurrection into an imperishable glorified body at the last trumpet. This transformation is necessary because of current body are mortal and corruptible, but the future kingdom is internal and incorruptible. Current bodies and temporary. Our present physical bodies are temporary and subject to decay. The phrase is a reference to these mortal, corruptible bodies, not a rejection of the physical world. The need for transformation to inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah, this corruptible body must be changed into an incorruptible, immortal one. Okay? The future resurrection. The Bible describes this change as a future event in a moment, in the twinkle of an eye, at the last trumpet, when the dead will be raised and believers will be transformed. A resurrected body. This does not mean an end to the body. Instead, it signifies the resurrection of a transformed, glorified body like the one Yahusha had after his resurrection. Okay. Remember, when he was resurrected, the disciples did not recognize him at all because he had a new body. Okay, but they realized after talking with him and being in his presence that he was who he said he was. Now, Luke 14:26, Yahusha says that whoever comes to him and does not hate father, mother, spouse, children, brother, sister, and even their own life cannot be his disciple, okay? Once again, I try to explain to people that this Bible is not about a religion. A disciple is a student or a learner, somebody that follows a teacher wherever they go, day and night, and they're with them for years, and until the teacher feels like the disciple is ready to become a teacher themselves and go make other disciples, they will stay with them until they feel that they have graduated, in a sense, okay? Now, in context, this Semitic hate is a comparative expression, loving him so supremely that every other attachment, including family, is subordinate to him, not a call to literal hostility, okay? Please understand that. It doesn't mean you literally gonna hate them, but if you have family members that are not trying to walk down this path, because remember, the path is very narrow to life, okay? And only a few are going to find it. Only a few are going to find it. I have to stress that so much because I got to get you guys to understand. Even I don't care if you're a woman who birthed a child and your son is like he's fighting you tooth and nail against what you're trying to explain to him or bring to him. That is not your job to try to keep trying to hammer this in to make and force them to receive the Messiah, to receive the Father, to receive the Holy Spirit. That is not your job. And I got to keep explaining this, guys, to you until you guys get it, until you decide to deny yourself and the things that you want, which are these material worldly things, even your own family, then you will be stuck in the limbo, okay? And you will not, once again, be considered a disciple of the Messiah, okay? And I gotta keep beating that into people's head. Verses describing the reality of self-denial, okay? Now, these do not always use the exact phrase deny yourself, but they describe the same reality of dying to self and living to Yahuah, okay? Matthew chapter 10, verse 38 through 39. Not taking one's cross and following makes a person not worthy of Yahusha. Losing life for his sake is how it is found, okay? Losing your life for his sake and his gospel, which is the kingdom, is how you will find your life, okay? John chapter 12, verse 25. Loving one's life in this world leads to losing it. Hating one's life, turning from self-centeredness, preserves it for eternal life, okay? Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I have been crucified with Hamashiach. It is no longer I who live, but Hamashiach lives in me. Okay. Romans chapter 6, verse 6, then 11 and 13. The old self is crucified so that the body of sin is rendered powerless. Believers are to present themselves to Yahuwah, not to sin. Okay. Now, Romans chapter 8, verses 12 and 13. Believers are debtors, not to the flesh, by the Spirit they put to death the deeds of the body. Okay. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 2. Walk in love as Hamashiach loved us and gave himself up for us, presenting his self-giving as the pattern for believers. Okay. This is a pattern for us to emulate, okay? First Peter chapter 2, verse 11. As sojourners and exiles, believers are to abstain from fleshly passions that wage war against the soul, okay? So please understand that the whole thing is you have to deny yourself and give up these worldly needs and wants, okay? And a lot of people will not do that. They love this world too much. They love the things of this world too much. And they don't have the heart, the mindset to follow the Messiah. And that's just what it is. Taken together, these passages present self-denial as renouncing self-rule to follow Yahusha under his cross-shaped path, relinquishing the attempt to save one's own life on one's own terms in order to receive true life from him. By the Rauk, putting to death the old self and its desires and offering one's whole life as obedience and sacrificial love to Yahuah and neighbor. Okay, remember, we're supposed to, the greatest two commandments is love the Father and to love your neighbor. Okay, now conclusion. The essence of discipleship is giving Yahusha first place. Okay, that's the whole thing. We need to make sure we give the Messiah first place in everything we do. To hate one's family and even one's own life is rhetorical. It refers to desiring something less than something else. The instruction was especially appropriate in Yahusha's day, since a decision for Yahusha could mean rejection by family and persecution, even to the point of death. Those who fear family disapproval or persecution would not come to Yahusha. Yahusha's call here is to follow him in the way of rejection and suffering. A disciple will be rejected by those in the world that may be, and that may also include your family, who do not honor Yahusha. Okay, so if they do not honor him, you will be rejected by them. Very simple. Okay, therefore, a disciple must be ready to face and accept such rejection. Your whole mindset should be on the fact that you will be hated. I've been making videos explaining this, especially I made a video about what the disciples and the prophets went through in order to try to get this message and the word of the Father out. They were hated on. They went through everything from being humiliated to being stoned to being murdered, everything. So please understand that, okay? Now, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. This is the Messiah speaking in John chapter 15, verses 18 through 19, okay? Once again, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. So the world hated him first. Remember that. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. So if the world loves you, you are a part of this world. Very simple. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. So you have to be chosen to even receive this information. That's matter of fact, that's probably one of the biggest things people miss, that if the Messiah did not choose you, you would not understand this Bible at all. You will not understand it at all. You will not be able to receive the mysteries and the keys of the kingdom. You will not understand that this Bible has nothing to do with the world's religion. It has something to do about a kingdom, our king, and us being citizens, family, and disciples of the Messiah. Very simple, okay? So, all right, family. I want to thank you. Shalom. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Leave a message under the video in the comment section, or just DM me if you want me to make a video about something, explaining something in more detail. Thank you, guys. I love you, and y'all have a wonderful day. Shalom.